You're listening to The Jeff Crilley Show on Talk Radio 1190.
Welcome back to The Jeff Crilley Show. My next guest is going to teach us how to go about selling our business. Robert Ruff is the managing director of Telos Capital Advisors. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, so tell us what Telos is all about. It's actually a Greek word.
Telos is a Greek word, and it derives from the Greek word for a good outcome or process, goal, and that's what we try to achieve for our clients. We help them achieve their dreams and their goals.
And I know a lot of small business owners will build this company, and they'll keep putting all the money back into the company, and sometimes they're managing it to not pay Uncle Sam too much money. But then when it comes time to sell, they're in trouble because it looks like the company didn't make any money.
That's true. That's why it takes a good advisor sometimes to be able to show and present the company without those personal expenses or other expenses run through it. So what would the company look like with a new owner, and what could the new owner do with it? So we're selling the future and the possibilities of the company, not necessarily what's been done in the past.
And when somebody engages you, how early should they bring you into the process?
Great question. This should be a long process that includes people like a wealth advisor, estate planning, tax people. We say you should probably think about it 3 to 4 years before you sell to make sure that you have trusts and all the tax-saving vehicles in place. We really would get involved once the decision is made to take the company to market.
I have to imagine you also are something like a therapist, aren't you? Because when you build a company, that's personal.
It's very personal. A couple of things. One, this is probably the largest financial transaction that the owner has ever done. Number two, we joke and we say we're helping them sell their favorite child. And so it can be very emotional. And then there's always the issues of what do I do next? So what we do is probably 60% psychological, 20% legal, and 20% financial.
So what is the process like when somebody engages you? What's the first thing that happens?
First thing we want to do is make sure we understand what the owner's goals are. Do they want to get out immediately? Do they want to work for a few years? How do they feel about the company going away if it's bought by a bigger company and absorbed? Or would they prefer to see the company continue to exist as a separate company? So we understand those goals. With that in mind, we prepare marketing materials. And as I said earlier, we accentuate the positive, but we also want to make sure we understand if there's any warts. We want to find the warts before the potential buyer does. Given all that, then we understand the universe of potential buyers that make sense for this company. And we run the process that way. We send out marketing materials, we run the process, get the potential buyers information about the company, we get preliminary bids, then we have management meetings where the buyers, potential buyers who have passed over the hurdle can come in and look at the company. Then we get final bids. The owner, with our advice, chooses one of these potential buyers, and then we go into legal documentation and final due diligence, close the deal.
I know that millennials, especially because of people like Mark Zuckerberg, think that it's easy to start a business and, gosh, I'll just come up with a great idea and pretty soon I'll be a billionaire too. And then they watch Shark Tank and they're saying, all I needed to do is get Mark Cuban to write me a check. There's a lot of kind of misinformation out there, isn't there?
Well, there is. I mean, for every Mark Zuckerberg, there's probably 50 people we've never heard of that tried a business and it either didn't work or it became what we call a lifestyle business, enough to support them but not to go public like Facebook. And that's terrific. I mean, that small businesses are what makes this country what it is and make it fantastic, the entrepreneurs. But at some point, if you've done that and you've had a business and you've grown it to maybe $30, $40, $50 million in revenue, your children aren't interested in the business. How do you unlock that value that you've created over those 20, 30 years, or maybe over 3 or 4 generations. How do you unlock the value? And that's what we help people do.
Is this a good time to sell your business?
Absolutely. A number of reasons. First of all, with interest rates so low, the buyers can get very cheap debt to help them purchase the company. Second of all, there's a phenomenal amount of money out there looking to buy companies, particularly in North Texas. We all know there's lots of people moving into North Texas. They follow growth. Money follows growth as well. So it's a great place to be, a great time to be here.
And because of the regulatory environment in Texas, it really is a pro-business state, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's people with money from all over the country that are looking to buy companies in Texas right now.
Do you ever deal with people doing business in California and hear their stories?
We often do. I have a good friend who does private equity. He's based in San Francisco. He's a third-generation Californian, and he has one rule is that they won't buy a company based in California.
Wow. Well, we are in the kind of the world of do-it-yourself. Every time you turn on a TV show, there's a do-it-yourself show. Why should someone not do this one themselves?
Kind of go backwards to the doctor or someone, don't perform surgery on yourself. A number of reasons. First of all, it is a very specific process. The owner is an expert in their industry. We're experts at taking these companies to market. You have to really understand what you're doing. Second of all, it's a very emotional process for the owner. It takes sometimes up to a year for this process to happen. We might spend 1,000 hours doing it. How many business owners can take 1,000 hours out of their business to try and do this?
Wow.
It's not something you want to try and do yourself.
And I saw in your bio that your first transaction was 1982. Do you
Yes.
remember it? What was it?
Very well. I was a commercial banker, and we financed the acquisition of Port Clyde Fisheries. They make sardines. They're up in Maine. And
was there anything fishy about that deal? Sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
So what did you learn in that first transaction?
Well, it was my first transaction, so I learned everything. We were a commercial banker. We lent, as I recall, $5 million to the people who were trying to buy the company. And it was just fascinating. Here were these people outside the industry trying to come in, buy a company, and their plans for it, and how we had to look at the company, both the historical financials, but also the future. Just fascinating, and I kind of got hooked.
What would you say is the top mistake that people make when they set out to sell their business?
Doing it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably would get a fraction of the value of the company that if they had orchestrated it through a company like yours.
Yes, the value will probably be lower, but more importantly, the percentage of businesses that the transactions that close is much, much lower without an advisor. Remember, this is a long, traumatic process, and it's bad to get to the end of it and not have it close.
We were talking off the air about the idea that you're not seeing as much family transactions as you used to see. Did it used to be common for a father to sell the business to his son or daughter?
Absolutely. And I think there's less of that. 2 reasons probably. We're a much more mobile society, so children don't stick around where they grew up necessarily. I think, and then also we're having fewer children. So if you've only got 2 kids, there's less of a chance that one of them will be interested in taking over the business rather than if you had 5 or 6 children.
Absolutely. Well, without getting political, what do you see for the next 4 years? This is a pro-business president. Do you see the climate being really good?
Yes. The climate will be good. It'd be great if there's a capital gains tax reduction. But I think there's the demographic issue, which is probably stronger. You've got all these baby boomers that are getting to a point where they need to figure out their transition process. And then low interest rates and the huge amount of money that's looking to be deployed to buy businesses.
Do you find is it harder to deal with a very large company, just in terms of like everybody in the tech business just wants to build their business up and sell it to Apple or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with a very large company like Apple, it seems like they've seen it all, done it all. They're very sophisticated.
Yes, we've sold a number of companies to publicly listed companies. On the one hand, it's great because they are very sophisticated, so they know what they're doing. They have good lawyers, which is terrific. I'd rather have very competent people on the other side.
Wow, that's
who
interesting.
know what they're doing. It'll get the deal done faster.
So in the little time we have left, what's your number one advice to somebody listening to this who says, gosh, sometime in the next 5 years, I think I probably will be selling my business. I'm interested in talking to Richard. What should they do?
Well, I think they can contact us, either my partner, Bernie, or myself, and we're happy to talk to people about the process and just educate them, even if they're not interested in selling in the near future, happy to talk to them. But they should start thinking about it because it's never too soon to start your transition plan.
And one of the things I know to be true about you is you're a very good man, and you're not selling something to someone. I mean, you're really taking them through a process.
Exactly. My partner and I, we do this. We love to do it. We really want to help people achieve their goals. And there would be nothing sadder to me than somebody who spent 40 years building a business to have it essentially disintegrate because they weren't able to find the right buyer for it.
I have to imagine at the very end of the process when that final check is being written, is there a moment of celebration with the owner, or is it sad?
Bittersweet for many owners. There's been more than one time where that day of closing or the day before closings come and the owners just said, I can't do it.
Wow.
And sometimes you can talk them off the ledge and sometimes maybe you can't.
Wow. Well, this has been a great segment. Give everybody your website.
The website is www.teloscap.com, TELOSCAP.com.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Jeff.
When we come back this Mother's Day weekend, we're going to be talking to the empowered mom and why she made national news this past week. That's next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
More of The Jeff Crilley Show coming up.